Give us knowledge on how to deal with the things of today that our country and our state is facing. Give each one of these people here today strength to go out in their communities, bless their families, and bless their loved ones. We want to thank you for the prosperity in the state of California, and we want to ask you to please continue to bless our nation and to bless our state as we are fighting hard for the things you stand for and for your will. Thank you, Lord Jesus, in Jesus' name, amen. All right, and for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can be seated if you have a seat, or not. All right, hats back on. Do I have any Californians here in the house? Oh! I want to tell you, despite and in spite of Facebook and Twitter and the social media bias going on, I want to tell you I'm so grateful each one of you have shown up here today for your community and fighting for the things you believe in this great state. My name is Erin Cruz. As many of you may know, I started the recall of Gavin Newsom here in the state of California. Yes, I did. And you know what? I may be 5'2", but I'm fierce.
Amen.
I'm fierce for not only what God has to be done in this great state, but also for the future of our state. If we don't fight now, if we don't rise up now, who will?
That's right.
We will, of course. But who will? You know, Facebook, like was mentioned today, has pushed back on First Amendment rights, and they're not the only ones. You know, just because you speak and somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean you shouldn't be allowed and let to speak. And Gavin Newsom is no exception to this rule. He would like to stop you from doing many things. As we saw just recently, Gavin Newsom pushed back on the Second Amendment rights of Californians, of U.S. citizens within this great state. And I'll tell you what, not just Second Amendment right proponents were upset with that. Even Democrats who believe in freedom and don't own guns were upset with this, not because they don't want to have a gun, or they don't want to own a gun, or they want to stop people from owning guns, but because they see what an overpowering government can do to the will of the people, and they're concerned for the future of our state and our country. When I started this recall of Gavin Newsom, I didn't know what was going to happen. Late in November, I think it was, after Gavin was won the vote with 60% of the vote. We're not even sure if that's true. The people came to me and they said, Erin, what are we going to do? He's going to take office and I'm afraid. They were literally in fear of what Gavin Newsom might do as governor. What he might do. What he could actually do, and what he has done since then, is a very real reality we all must face today. And for this, I'm grateful for these individuals who came to me and asked me, what can we do? We're afraid. They were brave. They were real brave. And I said, well, you know what? I may be able to help with that. So I started recall Gavin Newsom paperwork, and I started looking at and researching the process. And it was determined that I needed to start a 501c4 because the government, it's complicated. They want to make everything hard. And they want to regulate everything and get every penny they can. So I started RAN Action Fund. RANAF, volunteers, you know. And it just seemed like a process that would take forever, but it went smoothly. You want to know why? I had volunteers to help. The same people who asked me were in fear of what our state might be able to do under the rule of Gavin Newsom stepped up, and they helped. And it was in January January 3rd, when Gavin Newsom took office and he took his oath that he has since trampled on, stepped on, crushed. That we realized we have something here, ladies and gentlemen. The minute we talked about recalling Gavin Newsom, I'll tell you, the big parties laughed at us. The people in power, they left. I went to them, many of them, and I said, I'm going to be moving forward and recalling Gavin Newsom. And they laughed in my face. And they said, that why? He hasn't even done anything. He's just been sworn in. Really? Gavin Newsom's first action in office was against the will of the people, and he's continued since then, day after day, moving against the will of the people over and over again. But I didn't let that laughter stop us. I didn't let that laughter hinder us. And neither did the volunteers. They continued to garner signatures for our intent to petition. If you've read our petition here, at the top, it talks about what we believe in, why we believe Gavin Newsom should be recalled. Crumbling infrastructure, putting our veterans last. We have homelessness. You have homelessness right here in this town. I've passed many homeless who are struggling. All the while, Gavin Newsom seems to put other individuals who are not even U.S. citizens before our own people, before the needs of our own state. And so these volunteers, they continued to work on the intent to petition, and we filed our first intent and served Gavin Newsom, and the Secretary of State kicked it. That was a little scary. It was a little scary. But you know what? I still knew we were on the right track. Nothing good comes easily. Nothing. Our own founding fathers fought for this great country we live in, and it came at a price. Our price, gathering signatures, is an easy one. It's easy, really. So we decided, and we were ready to move forward again. We moved forward on the second intent to petition, and it was really interesting. Does anybody have a petition here? Can you bring me a copy, a blank copy, please? When we moved forward on our second round, and we were gathering our proponents, because the first round was kicked, apparently the Secretary of State said that we didn't have enough qualifying proponents. So we thought, okay, we're going to double down. We're going to have many more. So we ended up with 137 proponents, all of which are retired school workers, retired law enforcement, people who have served their country, veterans, regular and everyday individuals. Yet Gavin Newsom, when he got a hold of our second intent to petition and he was served, he knew our second intent would not fail. He knew it wouldn't fail. So he responded. And what did Gavin Newsom have to say? Warning is the first word he used. This unwarranted recall effort will cost California taxpayers $81 million, and it is being pushed by political extremists supporting President Trump's hateful attacks on California. Ours is nonpartisan. Our recall is nonpartisan. We're appealing to all of the citizens, the United States citizens who are residing in the state of California, to rise up and to vote their conscience and to vote and move forward on this recall and petition on this recall according to their values and what they want as citizens. But no, Gavin Newsom has another plan. He moves forward to basically fearmonger the people with his statement. He says less than 1 year ago, by historic margins, California voters elected Gavin Newsom governor. Since then, Gavin Newsom has already made good on his promises. Oh, really? What promises are those? Did it have anything to do with his oath? Absolutely not. He says, 1, he's increased funding for public education. 2, protect and secure your health care. I want to know whose health care that is and why California would need to secure our health care. 3, improve water and roads and bridges. Please, I just drove here 4 hours and hit potholes everywhere along the way. More lies, it seems. And then number 4, prepare California for wildfire threats. Is Gavin Newsom's preparation for wildfire threats using a strong arm of PG&E to shut off our power for days and days on end in an attempt to thwart off some threat from a wildfire that may or may not happen? There have to be better ways, more effective ways to lead in the fight against wildfires. We here in the state of California are not new to wildfires. In fact, for generations, wildfires have come through this state. And we've been resilient. So why the PG&E strong arm now? Interesting. Gavin Newsom is not the first to use this tactic, folks. Gray Davis used this tactic as well. He goes on, he says, our budget is balanced, our reserves are unprecedented, and our state economy and employment have hit record and historic highs. I have to ask you, if our economy is at a record high and we're doing so fabulous, why do we have nearly 60,000 people in LA alone living in their cars? And why is motorhome living now a new trend on the rise? Because people can't afford to live in California.
That's right.
Why do we have record number of homelessness and homelessness of our veterans? He goes on to say, yet a handful of partisan activists supporting President Trump and his dangerous agenda to divide America are trying to overturn the definitive will of California voters and bring Washington's broken government to California with this recall effort. I'm going to tell you what, folks, I'm a widow. I'm a mother of 2 grown children. I'm a regular lady. I'm not bringing Washington to California. I want to actually, because I'm running for Congress in the 36th district, take California to Washington and be a voice for the people here.
That's right.
So when he talks about our proponents who are regular everyday people, retired law enforcement and veterans and just regular everyday folks, saying that we're trying to bring an agenda here from Washington, D.C. That's just more lies. Just more lies. He goes on to say the last thing California needs is another wasteful special election supported by those who demonize California's people and attack California's values. I'll tell you what, California's values, according to Gavin Newsom, are not my values. And I don't see across the state, we have 58 counties participating in the recall. I don't believe those values are represented by those individuals as well circulating this position. Otherwise, they wouldn't be circulating. Gavin Newsom's values are not California values. They're his agenda based off of his value system, which is failing California. Just look at San Francisco. Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco and failed San Francisco. He also was lieutenant governor before this appointment, and I'll tell you, he failed California in that as well. Do not be fooled, he goes on. California's police officers, firefighters, first responders, public school teachers, health providers, and business leaders all strongly oppose this costly recall. Thank you. All? It's another lie. It's another lie. He goes on at the very last line to say, do not hand over your signature, your support, or your personal or private information to this destructive recall scheme. Signed, Governor Gavin Newsom, State Capitol Building, first floor, Sacramento, California, 95814. Really? That's a strong arm tactic, folks, to try to stop people from signing the recall of Gavin Newsom. And we must stand up against his strong arm tactics.
Yes.
So when we were laughed at and basically told a recall wouldn't go through, that we could not do this, that fired our volunteers up. And I know it's put a fire in each one of your bellies as well, to make sure that this person who lies and schemes against the people of the great state of California is stopped. That we put an end to the thug politics that are happening here in the state of California and get strong representation for all people residing here. Just yesterday, I was at the Sacramento Capitol speaking, and there was a threat of Antifa that they were going to be there. And I thought, boy, if I see a few of them, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. What a free country we live in, where even dissenters, people who don't believe what we believe in, can come out in public. Now, if they do something bad, if Antifa does something bad, that's a whole new thing. But it really dawned on me there that we have an opportunity, folks, even if we don't agree with one another, to still speak freely. Gavin Newsom wants to stop us from doing and saying the things that we want in this great state. He doesn't want to quiet us down. He wants to stop us from doing what we're doing. As a matter of fact, if we look at what he's doing to stop us, he's actually regulating businesses right out of the state. This weekend, today in fact, we have our volunteers in Nevada. They are in Las Vegas at a conference. Do you know what for? The bail bond industry. Whether you agree with bail bonds or not, or that process or not, the idea that Gavin Newsom and the legislature moved to put an entire industry out of business, it's wrong. Over and over again, we've seen Gavin Newsom move forward by releasing people who have done violent crimes, supposed to serve life in prison, and put them out on our streets. Our own ambassador, Agnes Gibney, does anybody know her? She's an angel mom. She's an angel mom. Her son was killed by an illegal alien. And the murderer was put in prison. Agnes will never be released from prison of knowing that her son is dead at the hands of a criminal and a criminal illegal alien. Gavin Newsom, on the other hand, is okay with releasing this criminal early. He won't have to serve all of his time. As a matter of fact, he's going to be releasing him right before Thanksgiving. And when you think, well, that's just one person, well, you know what? Gavin Newsom's policies have touched a lot of us in many different ways. And when one of us are touched in a negative way, we need to remember that our individual rights and freedoms are important. This is what so many have fought for over generations in our young country. And when I think about those individual rights and freedoms, the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, Second Amendment rights, and Gavin Newsom, they're not compatible. They're just not based on his policy. Gavin Newsom has moved to actually rid us of the death penalty. Something the people of the state of California, whether or not you agree with the death penalty or not, the state of California and the California voters have voted multiple times on this issue. They've made their voice heard, yet Gavin Newsom has stood against the people's voice and the people's will. That's frightening. We have to put somebody in office, remove Gavin Newsom, recall Gavin Newsom, put somebody in office who's going to respect the will of the people of the state of California. One other issue which is a concern is Prop 13. Property taxes. How many of you here have thought of moving out of state? I don't even want to look. Too many hands. This is my state. This is my home. This is your home. This is your state. We shouldn't have to move because we're outpriced by regulations and by taxation. My daughter has moved to Iowa. My son is now in Indiana. My folks have bought a second place in Iowa. They've left. I'm not going anywhere, folks. This state is worth fighting for. It is the state of California. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. If we don't secure California, our country is going to go to pot and go down the toilet. That is the reality. We have the largest maritime trade. Beautiful, beautiful maritime trade. And our ports are wonderful. And we have the rail, not the high-speed rail to nowhere. But we have rail that takes all of our goods across. We have truckers. Oh, the truckers. They've been hit by Gavin Newsom's policies as well.
Sure have.
But this state, and especially this valley here with the agriculture and the different industries, keeps America going. Keeps America alive. When the costs go up in California, guess what happens? The costs go up across the nation. We have to stand firm against Gavin Newsom and the Gavin Newsoms in the legislature as well. This is our time to fight. Yesterday at the Capitol, I looked behind me and there was a bunch of scaffolding on our building, a lot of maintenance going on. And I was thinking to myself, you know, taxpayer dollars hard at work. And I was thinking about this recall petition where Governor Newsom says he put our taxpayer dollars to work. And I'm still wondering what that was. But it specifically, public education was a concern. Why do I say that? Because Gavin Newsom may have given our schools more money, but here's the reality. Our children still are not getting proper education in our public school systems they deserve, and that you're funding. And Gavin Newsom has the power to influence and to be able to make that a reality, and he doesn't. He wants to throw money at the problem. As a matter of fact, he also wants to legislate against the right and will of the parents. Parental rights is a huge issue. And I know we've talked about this many, many times before through the recall effort, but parental rights is a huge thing. The kids are our future. And if parents can't be let to parent, and the government thinks it can govern and govern the children and govern the parents, our future is gone. They want to indoctrinate our children. Instead of having opt-in or opt-out, they have mandatory school lessons that the parents are fighting for against our legislature. Not just with health education, but with other education pieces as well. Charter schools have become a hot topic. They want to remove your school choice. I'll tell you, if it's your taxpayer dollars, you should be able to put them hard at work wherever your children are going to be able to get an education. And if the public school system isn't going to do it, you should be able to opt into charter schools. And charter schools should not be reprimanded as they are and be censored as they are. And then we go to homeschooling. Gavin Newsom would love to get rid of homeschooling. I have a message for Gavin Newsom. The parents and the people of the state of California are fed up, and we are moving to recall you, and we're not going to stop. We're going to fight for what we believe in. And you know what? Our weapon is our pen.
That's right.
Our pen. The power is in the pen, and the power is in the hands of the people. I was at a talk the other night, and a Marine stood up and he said, you know, Erin, you brought up something very, very interesting. You talked about the pen. And he shared with us a story, and he says, you know, one line that I'll just use. The pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the sword. And he's right. We live in a civil society where we as a people need to take back our power and use the power of the pen and push back against the legislature who is using the power of the pen against you. I think of Hong Kong. Has anybody seen Hong Kong rise up? Or seen any of the fights overseas for freedom?
Yes.
Many countries. If people realize their power, their actual power, we would not be in this situation to begin with, California. But this is our time. This is our moment. And this paper is our tool to be able to get this state back on track and moving in a positive direction. And that's what you're doing here today. With every signature. You know, they say every vote matters, every vote counts. Well, with this petition, every signature matters. Every person in the state of California matters, and they count. So what I have to say is, it doesn't matter if you're a registered Democrat or Republican. If Gavin Newsom is not representing you, if you're an independent, if you're a libertarian, Green Party, whatever you might be, if Gavin Newsom isn't representing you, take your power back and move to recall Gavin Newsom by signing our petition today. For those people listening online, you can download our petition at ranaf.org or recallgavinnow.com. This is your time. This is your moment. We are in battle. We may be out here wearing red, white, and blue. I may be standing on a fancy blue stage with a beautiful flag. And we may be speaking and using our First Amendment rights peaceably. But we are in battle, ladies and gentlemen. Because it doesn't matter if you move to Iowa or Indiana or Washington or Arizona or Texas. California is going to follow you. Those issues are going to follow you wherever you go. Socialism is spreading, and I'm going to say it plainly today. Socialism in America is a soft-spoken word for communism. The government wants to regulate everything and put funding through the government. What is that? You work, you give the government money, and the government then spends it how it sees fit on every area of our lives, be it healthcare, education, but on mass scale. And they want to control it all. I remember when Barack Obama said, when he was talking about healthcare reform, and he talked about you can keep your doctor with Obamacare. The government will do anything, say anything to take your freedom of choice away. My grandfather was a retired major, God rest his soul, in the United States Marine Corps. And he fought, and he saw communism over the pond. Communism is no longer over the pond anymore, folks. It is here in Sacramento. It is here in the Capitol, and it is here legislating over the tone of 800 bills just in the first 10 months of this year. 800. We may not see the reality of those bills right away, but they're going to be making our way into our towns. And we need to take action now. So with this recall, comes a large opportunity, and it comes with a lot of sacrifice. I know people are giving a lot of their time and energy and effort, but it's worth it. Many have fought. Some have died for freedom, for liberty, and for justice for all. We can't take that lightly. We shouldn't take that lightly. You know, I came out here today, I drove 4 hours, and I'm so blessed just by everybody's outpouring of support. Even the loud cars and motorcycles. Why do I say that? Well, because 4 hours is a small price to pay to get this state back on track.
Amen.
It really is. And this time you've set aside in your communities, you guys are all out there fighting on the front lines, messaging for freedom. I've been asked, well, who's going to be put into office? I want to address that here today. Once we get the 1.5 million signatures and Gavin Newsom is put on the ballot to be recalled, it is not the lieutenant governor. Right now, our organization is pushing for the recall and 1.5 million signatures. We'll continue to push. But once this qualifies for the ballot, we'll be in another battle.
That's right.
For our state. The messaging needs to be, we know one thing. We don't want another Gavin Newsom. We don't want another progressive, strong-arming our economy and over-regulating, running jobs out of our state. We don't want over-taxation. Just look at the gas tax. We have a governor who says he needs to do an investigation because he doesn't understand why the gas tax is so high. He knows exactly why the gas tax is so high. As a matter of fact, the CARB legislation wasn't put in under Gavin Newsom. However, Gavin Newsom has watched while the legislature moves to push the gas taxes higher again. And he'll continue to watch them go higher again. And then guess what he's doing? Gavin Newsom is doing with your gas taxes. He doesn't want to put your taxes for gas to the roads. He wants to put it to the train to nowhere and climate change. I have a message for Gavin Newsom and the legislature. If you want climate change funding, go to the people and ask for it.
That's right.
They can do that. They should do that. The government should ask the people or put forth a bill and see what the people think about that. If the people of the state of California want to fund climate change, I'm sure there'll be strong support for it, right? Instead, these individuals are taking gas tax monies and allocating it to areas that don't apply. And this is true with the pensions. I don't know if anybody here has heard about the pensions and Gavin Newsom wanting to scrape off the top. We have a lot of public service unions and other individuals who, retired individuals even, who are looking at those retirement funds. We're already in a state of affairs here where we can't afford to make false moves with regard to our pensions. But Gavin Newsom wants to take money off the top. What does he want to take off the top of those pensions? Money for climate change. Again, if you want climate change, go to the people and ask for the funding. Gavin Newsom. Some of the areas of industry that have been touched by Gavin Newsom, and I want to run down the list because often I get this, well, why do you want to recall Gavin Newsom? My question to you would be, why is it that you would like to recall Gavin Newsom? Or why is it that you're here at the table wanting to perhaps sign? Well, they might give a reason or two. Well, I'll give you a few reasons. Taxation, gas taxes, overstepping regulations by government. Just look at our housing. We have unaffordable housing due to regulations. Ease regulations. Ease taxation. Allow builders to build. The trucking industry has been hit hard. AB 5. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar here with AB 5. Private contractors, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, freelance riders are now being hit hard by Gavin Newsom. Again, regulated out of their jobs. The trucking industry, I'll say that 5, 6, 7 times because I'll tell you, we have a lot of rail that takes our food and our supplies across California into the country. But you know who else does? The truckers. The truckers. And I know a lot of truckers who've said, I used to do good business in California. I won't go there anymore. It's too expensive. Trucking companies who've been in business for over 50 years having to close their doors because of the regulation here in California. The bail bond industry, as I mentioned earlier, has been squashed. Our own law enforcement and first responders have been hit hard with Governor Newsom's legislation as well, what he's signed into place here in the state of California. These are just some of the industries.
Oil field productions.
Oil, yes, that's a big one actually here. It is here in California. Free energy. And when I say free, meaning the right to produce oil. Clean coal. Obama talked about clean coal a little bit. But here's the deal. Is the minute government gets the choice on what it's going to do or not going to do and allow and not going to allow, that means that they've restricted the right and will of the people to be able to do what they want, and they're tying up commerce. One thing with PG&E that I'm noticing here, it may be inconvenient for some, but PG&E is also impeding commerce. Businesses shutting down small mom and pop stores in counties all across the northern and southern part of the state. I have a message for Gavin Newsom that I spoke yesterday about rail to nowhere. Has he thought about underground power lines? PG&E says it may take upwards of 10 years. Where have they been for the last 10 years? We've had wildfires for a long time. This is no new threat, not in California. We're coming to the end of the speech, and I just want to touch back on California's police officers, firefighters, first responders, public school teachers, health providers, and business leaders, who Gavin Newsom says all strongly oppose the recall. Some have come to me and said, "Can I sign the petition?" Are you kidding me? Sir, ma'am, if you're registered California registered voter, you can sign the recall petition. Don't be afraid. And you know what's interesting? Is some of them say they are worried. And you know what they're worried about? Losing their jobs.
Yep.
Folks, this is a time, a day and age where we need to look at the realities of what that translates to. If you are afraid to lose your job for signing a petition, government is out of control if you have that fear. And now is the time, if you've got a concern, to voice that concern and sign that petition and rise up and be a voice for your community and be a voice for your state and never back down. Because if you want to keep that job and if you want to keep serving your community,
That's right.
You need to make sure and remove individuals from office like Gavin Newsom and others and put people in place who will represent you, who will be your voice.
That's right.
There are a lot of individuals who say they won't come out to the rallies because they're afraid.
Yep.
And some of those are also on that list. The people of the state of California, again, need to rise up and speak their voice and show up and show others they are not alone. I've asked people many times, Don't look to somebody else to volunteer. You stand up and volunteer because they're likely waiting on you. Be a leader. Be a leader in your home. Be a leader in your church group. Be a leader in your community. And you'll realize more people are out there than you know who will stand by you, who will fight with you for this beautiful state. California is not lost. California needs saved, and it's going to be up to each one of us to fight. I want to thank you again for having me here today, for allowing me the opportunity to exercise First Amendment rights.
Amen.
And for also being able to speak to you and the thousands of people, other people who are watching today on live streams. Don't give up. Never give up. Never stop. Again, many died and gave all. This is our time to give some and fight to save California. God bless each one of you. God bless California, and God bless the United States
Amen.
of America.
Woo, thank you. Yes.